4, 3, 2, 1. CTS podcast episode 37.
We're back on video, hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
As long as everything goes right, we're back on video. So, if you haven't seen us before, because it's been a long time since we've been on video.
It's been a long time, yeah.
Yeah, so if you're listening and would rather watch if you're on Apple Podcast or Spotify and would rather watch on YouTube, this should be on CTS Podcast on YouTube. Go there, subscribe, whatever. Yeah, it's more fun, I guess. I don't know. We haven't done it in so long. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Episode 37.
We'll start off this episode by talking about what's going on in Israel and Palestine.
What is going on in Israel and Palestine, Jace?
So it's the I'll give my take from both sides. How about that? So Palestine recently launched over 2,500 rockets at Tel Aviv.
Tel Aviv and what's the other city? I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But most all of the rockets were intercepted by the Iron Dome, which is this giant rocket interception device that essentially surrounds the city.
Yeah, that thing's crazy. Like, have you seen how it works?
It's so cool.
It's like, so there's the radar so the rocket gets launched that's like coming in to hit wherever, and then there's a radar, detects it, sends a signal to like a command center, says there's a rocket coming. The command center calculates the like interception point for the rockets, and then another rocket launches out and intercepts the rocket that's coming in. It's insane. I don't know how it works. Like, it's 90% effective.
Yeah.
That's bonkers.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's really cool.
Apparently, each of those rockets for the Iron Dome thing costs $50,000. $50,000.
That's a lot,
That
though.
is insane.
So Palestine and Hamas claim that these rockets were sent in response to a ethnic cleansing of sorts of the Palestinian people in Israel. Israel has responded to the launching of these rockets by it's borderline carpet bombing the Gaza Strip. Airstrikes after airstrikes throughout the night. My personal take on this is Palestine was the aggressors here. I'm not saying that what Israel has done to the Palestinian people is the most effective solution to the situation, but Palestine launched 3,000 rockets.
Wasn't it like
into Tel Aviv.
1,000 in 2 days?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine. So granted, the Iron Dome thing like has protected, like, it's 90% effective. But can you imagine, like, if those rockets were getting through?
Yeah.
How much damage that's gonna do? And just, 3,000 rockets, and they're just like launching them, just hoping they hit something, hoping they sneak through.
Yeah. So, and the Palestinian people probably do have an argument in saying that Israel has essentially forced them out, but I don't really think it's all too compelling, or it's all too really it's like not an equal, it's not I can't think of the word, but it's not equal, right? When you have I'm trying to explain this. Okay. Israel did take the land, in my opinion, from the Palestinians. I think that happened. But we've seen that all over the world throughout history. That's what has happened throughout history.
Well, and you don't get a stand on the moral high ground on an issue while launching like 3,000 like unprovoked by specific military action rockets. Like, it wasn't provoked by specific military action. It was just a feeling like their grievance. And Hamas is just a terrorist organization, right? Like there's no other way
Yeah.
around it. It's just a terrorist organization, and they're trying to attack Israel, and Israel's defending itself.
Yeah, and we're not saying that the Palestinian people are terrorists, but Hamas is a terrorist.
Hamas is a terrorist organization.
Yeah. And I think it's worth mentioning that Palestine has gotten all of this support. They've taken the moral high ground on the issue. You have these virtue signaling people on social media defending Palestine. But let's not forget that Palestine has very, very different values to what Israel has. I realize it's a different religion. I realize it's a different culture. But there are very, very different values that Palestine has that Israel doesn't share. For example, you will be killed in Palestine for being gay. You can be imprisoned. You can be killed. A woman can be killed for cheating on her husband. I mean, there are very different cultural, important cultural points about the two nations. So taking the moral high ground, especially when you're defending Hamas, is really, really not good looks, in my opinion. Because you're defending a terrorist organization by taking the high ground, but it's so ironic because you're defending a terrorist organization that would probably kill you if you actually went to Palestine, if you were anything, if you even towed the line of being culturally different from them.
Well, yeah, so there's two levels to it, right? There's the actual conflict that's going on in like Palestine, Israel, and then there's the people here in the US, like major politicians that are like picking sides. How did you see the like AOC and Andrew Yang thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, how bizarre was that? Andrew Yang tweets out like kind of the typical politician response when something like this is happening, like, oh, we stand with the people of Israel. And AOC basically calls him a child murderer. Like,
Yeah.
She's like, how, I don't know, it's very hypocritical of you to support like a child murdering regime, and like you're complicit in this. And it's like, I don't understand. It seems like almost cognitive dissonance to go, like, is it not possible to criticize both sides? Like, it seems like at this point people are so stuck that they have to go like one way on an issue. And yeah, I just don't get it. Like, the AOC thing is weird to me.
Yeah, I mean, she said, so you're something along the lines, and I'm paraphrasing, something along the lines of, so you're supporting the murder of thousands of children or something like that. And I don't want to defend Israel too much because Israel has done some really, really bad things in the past as far as, I mean, what they did to the Palestinian people, I think, is wrong. But I also think that what Australia did to the indigenous Australians was wrong. I think what the United States did to the Native Americans was wrong. But I mean, these are things that you have to, like, what are we supposed to do, Henry? What are you supposed to do? I see people making that argument that, you know, these lands were stolen, which they were. But what do? Do you go back in history and correct it? Do you start to give them more land piece by piece until the entire land is reclaimed? Like, what do? There's no real solution there. You're just saying that the land was stolen, therefore they have an intrinsic right to launch 3,000 rockets. 3,000 rockets
2 weeks?
Into your nation.
2 weeks?
Less than 2 weeks. And I saw people, we were talking about this, but I saw people online saying, well, they're symbolic rockets that they knew were going to be intercepted by the Iron Dome.
Not all of them got intercepted by the Iron Dome.
Yeah, or
though.
to go even further, you were telling me that, maybe you should tell me because I won't paraphrase it well. What were they saying?
Are we, the like the not level playing field, that comment?
Yeah.
I saw an article on, I can't even remember where it was at this point, but it was the writer was making the argument, I don't even know if they were making an argument, but they made the point that the Iron Dome is like a multi-billion-dollar defense system, and the Palestinian rockets are like made of like fertilizer and stuff, and so it's not a level playing field, which to me was a very odd comment to make. Like, what do you want like? What do you mean by not a level playing field? Like, because if the playing field's level, then a lot of people are getting killed. Like, a lot more people are getting killed. I don't understand why you'd make that point that it's not a level playing field. It was just a bizarre comment to me to see.
It's just weird. And what's crazy is if this thing gets any worse, I don't think it would lead to a full-scale war. I think that I think Hamas would be destroyed in a matter of months. But that being said, if it were to scale out to a full war, I mean, you would have Iran backing Palestine. You'd have Russia backing Palestine. You'd have Israel being backed by the United States.
And, like, most of NATO, right?
Yeah, pretty much all of NATO, I think. Actually, I don't know about all, because there are some leaders in NATO that do support the Palestinian call for reclaiming their land. But, I mean, a two-state solution is what I think is the solution, but
it's been proposed by Israel, right? And
it's
Palestine turned it down.
It's been proposed several times by several different leaders in several different forms, and every single time the Palestinian regime has refused to come to the table to negotiate. Every single time. The Trump administration came out with a detailed plan for a two-state system that was more than fair to the Palestinians. Like, way more than fair to the Palestinians, and the Palestinian regime refused to come to the table. So that's why I really have a hard time siding with Hamas and that regime, because over the last few decades, there's been so many attempts at a solution that have been refused, and it's always been by the same side. And it seems like that side is always the aggressors when it comes to military action. That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, and I think it's weird, the whole argument that people say, like, oh, like it should all be Palestine. Like, it's like people want a one-state solution, and they just think they've picked the wrong state for it to be one state. And I don't get that argument, because it's like, so how far, in conflicts like that, how far back do we go? Like, at what point? Because, so do we give, like, Mexico back, Texas, Utah, California, because of the Mexico-American War? Do we go back even further than that and start, like, messing with the borders in Europe? And, like, it doesn't make sense. Like, conflict over, like, land disputes has been a part of history forever. So and I understand to a certain extent, like, I do think we've progressed past that largely. And that's a good thing, and we should be, like, moving past that. But if you want to give that land back, like, at what point do you stop? So do we, like, does Mongolia all of a sudden become massive because of the Mongol Empire? At what point do we stop? And so I think it just, like, cooperation is a better solution, and it seems like that's not going on for some reason.
Right. It's pretty crazy stuff, what's going on over there. I couldn't come up with a two-state solution, but I think that from what I've read, it has been fair, what has been proposed, especially as of late, the last 5 years. And one side has always refused to come to the table, and Israel has been more than willing. So that's all I'll say about that. But in other news, CDC updated their mask guidance.
Yeah, how crazy is that?
Suggesting, or they are no longer recommending that you wear a mask.
No masks or social distancing if you're fully vaccinated.
Or social distancing in large or small groups, indoors or outdoors, if you're fully vaccinated.
It's pretty crazy how quickly, wasn't it, like, not that long ago that Fauci was recommending, like, 2 masks after you're fully vaccinated?
Yeah.
That's weird. Like, it's just weird that and I understand that, like, the science can change, the research can change, but that's, like, a pretty drastic change.
To be fair, I think that people are getting vaccinated way, way faster than they originally thought they would be.
But that wasn't that long ago.
I think that it's something like 60% of all Americans or all Americans of ages 18 and older have received at least their first shot. It's pretty crazy,
Well,
but you're right. It wasn't that long ago. I think it was
and
a few months, two or 3 months.
yeah, it's gonna be weird. It's weird that like it was weird how quickly everything like shut down and changed, and how quickly the world changed. And it's gonna be weird that like pretty quickly it's gonna go back to just normal. Like
It is.
everything's very similar
It
to how
does
it was
feel
before.
weird. Yeah. We were talking about this before the podcast. I asked you this question and I told you not to answer until the podcast. But are you gonna wear a mask if you went to an indoor gathering of say 80 or 100 people? Would you wear your mask?
Probably.
Why?
You can still spread.
Yeah, but if the
Virus.
CDC says you don't need it,
They don't recommend it.
they don't
There's
recommend it.
different. Yeah, and I don't like it's not that big a inconvenience. And I do think a lot of private businesses will probably continue to require a mask.
Are you going to wear your mask like that forever?
No, I don't think so.
There's
But
some people that say they're going to wear it for the rest of their lives.
that seems crazy to me. It is in places like Asia, there is a culture where if you're sick, then like you wear a mask, or like a lot of people wear a mask outside because pollution's bad. And so it'll be interesting to see what people do as far as that goes.
Yeah, I don't know. I probably won't wear it anymore unless I feel like I need to, or unless a business requires it, because obviously you would need to. But if people are getting vaccinated as fast as they are, and it does decrease your what's it called when you spread something from one person to another?
Like the infection rate, or like how infectious you are.
Yeah. Even if you have it, I think even if you were to catch it, I think it does decrease your chances of spreading it by like 75% or something.
Yeah.
So you can spread it, but I mean, the likelihood now, especially if you're with other vaccinated people, it's almost zero.
That's true. Did you hear about what the leader of the World Health Organization said?
What?
He came out and asked that wealthier countries like the U.S. and places like that stop vaccinating their citizens under 18 and instead give those vaccines to other countries.
That seems really weird to me. That seems really bizarre. That's like, first of all, I have always been very critical of the World Health Organization. The way they handled coronavirus at the beginning of the pandemic was actually, it was incompetent at best and should be illegal at worst. But that's besides the point. Why in the world would a country, people who pay taxes for their government, people who children they probably want vaccinated, their children will decrease in their likelihood to spread it to other family members or what have you. Why would we be giving vaccines to countries that, and I do think there is a level of you should be altruistic in your division of the vaccines, but it wouldn't make sense for a country to prioritize another country during a pandemic. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
It is weird to come out and say, like, to come out. I understand if, like, behind closed doors, you're like, hey, like, you have a lot of vaccines. Like, maybe if you could at least give some to these other countries.
And we are.
Yeah, and we are. But to come out and almost, like, give an ultimatum and be like, you should, like, it's wrong for you to be, like, it would be a mistake to vaccinate the rest of your population.
How about you use the billions of dollars in funding that you get every year to finance some vaccines for these other nations? That's what you're there for. Well, how about you use that? It's like, I just have no respect for the World Health Organization. I can't believe that Biden put us back in it after what happened with coronavirus. It's actually insane.
And it's not even it. That to me felt like a Trump like they reacted. They're like, oh, Trump took it out. We have to reverse everything that Trump did. But Trump wasn't the only person that was critical of the World Health Organization.
Yeah,
There
no.
were a lot of other countries that, like Australia, was super critical of China and the World Health Organization. Didn't they open an investigation into?
Yeah, I think they did. I think they opened an investigation into China.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
That relationship between China and Australia is really weird too. China's like, I don't know how familiar you are with the situation, but China is very like passively aggressive towards Australia in their comments, or like state directed media is very, very passively aggressive towards Australia.
Well,
like,
especially
threats.
since that stuff came out that
Yeah.
Australia was like critical of China. You'll see like state sponsored Chinese media that's like bagging on Australia, and
yeah, it's
pretty
weird.
funny. What about that gas pipeline? A totally changing subject, but how crazy is that?
Yeah, so for people who don't know this, the gas pipeline didn't get hacked, but
They hacked the gas pipeline. They rerouted it.
like legit.
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you were being serious.
they
Can you imagine? They like literally unscrew the piping and like pipe it somewhere else.
it's like those mini games where you like
Yeah,
move
yeah,
the
yeah,
pipes
yeah.
around to get the water through.
So their computers got hacked. All these private businesses, they got hacked. These hackers were demanding, it was either 5
Well, it's
million
just
or
one.
5 billion.
It's just one company, right? They got
It
hacked.
may have been, yeah, but they were demanding it was either 5 million or $5 billion.
I don't think it was 5 billion. That seems
Okay,
exorbitant.
5 million. I know it was 5 million then.
Yeah.
And these companies had to end up paying it. But what's weird about the situation is, it was like the Secretary of Commerce or something like that, was giving a press conference, and a reporter asked if this company should pay the ransom, and the secretary responded by saying, we don't have any guidance, this is a private sector issue. I'm like, how is this a private sector issue? Like, gasoline is more than a private sector issue. This involves the entirety of the US economy, and you're just saying it's going to be up to them.
Well, that pipeline runs through multiple states. So if there was a crime, it'd fall under federal jurisdiction.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
Like that's a weird way to kind of weasel out of that question.
Yeah, and I mean, all of these states, like, some of them had gas stations completely shut down, or they were price gouging for gas.
Well, DC was like, wasn't it something crazy? Like 90% of DC gas stations were out of
something
gas.
like that.
I mean, it's like those pictures you see from, when was it? Was it like the 70s or 80s or whatever, when there was no gas and you'd see like big long gas lines and just insane stuff.
Well, good thing Biden canceled the pipeline. What's it called?
I don't know if there's any relation
Uh,
on that. I don't know.
I don't know if
that,
there's any relation on that, but I mean, gas prices have gone up to $3 a gallon.
That's true. Gas prices have gone up. Speaking of Biden canceling things, did you hear he like is taking out, like Trump did that like Garden of Heroes, or want to do that Garden of Heroes thing with and he wanted like a statue of Kobe Bryant and Alex Trebek and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and Biden canceled it.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know about this.
A weird thing to cancel. Like, I don't know. It's just like, what's the big deal? The government spends money on crazy things all the time. It's not like cost saving. If you really wanted to cost save, you'd cut spending somewhere else. To be like, yeah, we're canceling the Garden of Heroes just because Trump planned it.
Yeah, it is kind of weird, huh? It's dude, oh shoot, I just completely forgot what I was gonna say, but hold on. Yeah, that's kind of a weird thing to cancel. And different administrations cancel the most random stuff for just no reason. But
Oh, for sure. I just saw that
one's
recently
kind of
and thought it was
weird.
funny. Yeah.
Dude, did you hear that? Oh, who was it? We may have talked about this last week. I can't remember. But did you see that Biden showed up to a press conference with his mask on?
We did like
We
the
did talk
Zoom
about
press
this?
conference
Dang
and the
it.
flag. Yeah,
Dude,
that
that's
was
so
crazy.
weird. That is so weird to me.
Did you see the thing with his like Jill Biden where she like it was weird. It like not the like it was weird that it was a big story. Like she didn't have a mask on for something and then like put a mask back on to go to a museum, and I saw like 5 news articles about it.
Her not wearing a mask?
Her wearing a mask.
That seems weird to me.
I was like,
when people rail against like public officials wearing a mask, or they're railing against Biden, don't you think you're setting a bad precedent by coming outside with your mask on in front of vaccinated people? That seems weird to me. That wearing a mask, and I'm not even a super duper mask cautious person, but that's just weird when Republicans make that point. Oh, you're wearing a mask and you're outside and you're vaccinated. It's like, why do you care that much?
Did
I
you
mean,
see-
it's their mask. Why do you care?
did you see how quickly though the press, like members of the press and like press officers were like no masks at all in the press room for the White House? That's so funny. It was just like, and you'd see all those things where people would have their masks on, and even I saw a video that people were criticizing. It was right at the end of Trump's administration, and like we're criticizing some Trump official for not having a mask on. And then there were pictures from like immediately after like the Trump official left, and
Yeah.
the reporter had their mask off, and
Yeah,
like,
or
weird
how they
stuff.
how they railed against Ted Cruz. Not even a month ago, he was answering questions in front of the press. He was 8 feet away from them with no mask on. He was just standing at a podium.
Vaccinated. He's
Yeah.
obviously been vaccinated.
And all the people in the room are vaccinated. Ted Cruz, why are you not wearing a mask? Will you please put on your mask? He's no, I'm not going to wear a mask.
I'm
We're all vaccinated.
You're vaccinated and social distanced. Yeah, but who knows? It'll be interesting to see how quickly things go back to normal now that the CDC has come out about that stuff.
And I do think people do wear masks. If you wear a mask in your car, you're kind of weird. That's kind of like you that's not even being cautious. That's just being weird.
This was at the start of the pandemic, or like closer to the start of the pandemic, but I saw someone talking about that, and they were like, where do you think the air that comes from your AC system comes from? You've got to wear a mask in your car.
That's unbelievable.
Huh? What on earth? All right, you want to wrap this one up?
Yeah.
Okay.